Welcome everybody back to another BOLDcast reaction. I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
And this is Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 3, Episode 14. What happened last time?
Last time was Carboy, who doesn't do leg day.
I'm a motherfucking cowboy.
Yeah, so he had a car stand, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And now it looks like Enya is coming out, because the 7 extremely powerful stand users that she was counting on, for some reason, were not able to stop the main characters from progressing towards the main villain.
Perhaps if they all did it at once, they would have a better chance.
Perhaps.
We're gonna see what happens this episode. Hope you guys leave a like and subscribe. Check out Patreon, linked in the description, if you want to get a week ahead, or if you want to support us in another way. Mm-hmm. You also have access to uncuts there on Patreon. You also have access to like nearly 100 OP reactions, or maybe even 100 or more at this point, including like Naruto OPs. Yeah, there's a catalog of stuff that is exclusive just to Patreon, and OVA reactions, movie reactions, and stuff like that. So you can go check that out if you're interested. But let's just get into this Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, hence for the official release. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, Episode 14. Let's go.
Gets a new jacket.
The exact same. Pretty straightforward, just a quick scene to... This is why he has a jacket again.
Nice. You really need to go. Like, you really need to go home.
I'll let you off easy this time. But don't think I'll do it again. Looking for Jotaro to say goodbye.
Everyone else on the plane? What the fuck is going on?
Yada yada. For me, I think this is where the show started picking up a little bit more. So hopefully it does for you too.
I mean, it's confirmed that we already got rid of the 7 guys in the way of the story progressing.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a character that will be introduced at some point that you will simultaneously like and probably really dislike. I'm excited to see your reaction to that. Let's just admire this intro. We've just been passively watching it, but it's actually a really good OP.
It's good. I think the song is where it's not as good for me.
By the way, when all their stands are going across, like the first time, you can see in the background, it's like all of the stands of their enemies, like, and each of the little conflicts is represented in the background.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool, and there's some that haven't happened yet, which you could see. 5,000 years? I feel like, being from North America, I feel like my culture is just such a bitch-made, like, baby compared to all these old school things. You know what I mean? Whenever I hear, like, for 5,000 years, these cultures have, you know.
Yeah.
For us, it's like, for 300-400 years, things have been stirring around, and before that, like, it was just kind of peaceful, I guess. This looks like some shit out of Dark Souls. This looks like, the New Lundo ruins, kinda.
I don't trust anywhere with some mist going on.
Yeah. Hidden fog jutsu. The fuck was that? Dog on a stick?
And of course, just a dog, just...
Yeah, a dog. But also he's, like, in a foreign country, so then he's just like, I mean, that's really fucked up, but, like, probably not the only one.
Seems like this
thing
is
like that
a
you've
zombie town or some shit. Looking real sketchy, like...
This looks like the land of the dead. Is that true? Wait, did I say American? I meant I'm half English.
Maybe you should find a different town, you know? Like this one, not...
Better keep on driving, stranger. Sucks when your, like, Middle Eastern guide is dead.
Yeah, I think we really need to get out of this town, you know? Ah!
2?
It's like 2 of everything. Oh god.
Get the fuck out of here. That's when I leave. That's when I fucking leave.
But, I would have not even gone there. It looks sketchy as hell.
Oh, it's still smoking.
Guys.
There's no bullet hole. Okay, I have acne. That's not acne. Even I want to puke, looking at her face. Stop.
No. Let's just go out of this town.
I don't know how many more warnings you guys need. What other, like, red flags would you need in order to leave this place? What else would need to happen? That's a creepy dog. That's a creepy looking dog.
Yeah, it is a creepy. Yeah, it feels like we should get the fuck out of here.
Now there's a skull in the sky and you don't think anything of it? I mean, they clearly think something of it, but not like, hey, let's get the fuck out of here. Justice. Did you see that giant cart? What the fuck?
You don't think so? No.
Unlikely. There's no motive. Are you guys fucking kidding me right now?
Have you seen the people that have been coming after you? They've killed dogs. They've killed fucking random people.
Honestly, I don't know what else you could show these guys to make them leave or think that something's wrong. They saw they saw some Lovecraftian shit of a skull in the sky, like it's fucking Lord Voldemort is returning to this plane.
Guys,
what's the point of studying this? Get the fuck out. 10 yen coin. That's like a shotgun shell. That's a slug. That's not like a normal gun, at least.
Unless it's a stand user.
Yeah.
You absolute morons.
We need to get to the bottom of this. No, we don't. Getting to the bottom of this is not our job. They just need to, like, go down every step of the analysis.
The odds of a stand user being nearby just increased. They were already at 100%.
This, like, the reasoning is so thick. Ah!
What? Oh my god!
Overdrive! Yeah.
Holy shit. Ah! The oh no is so funny.
Oh no!
It's like so like, oh no! Like, I wonder if this could possibly be the stand user. No, she's just a little old lady. If they believe...
It's like...
I cannot take
Honestly,
it with this.
What would make it more obvious? What could possibly make it more obvious that there's some foul play?
These people...
There's a strong possibility.
I fucking hate... They're so dumb.
Zero 007.
Guys, this is one of the reasons that I'm not enjoying this part as much, because they're just so fucking dumb.
Part of what made Joseph cool was that he was wise to everything, and immediately,
Yeah.
oh, Joestar.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that as well.
How do you know the name Joestar, old lady? Look how she has her hand wrapped up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my right hand? I mean, my left hand? Okay.
But yeah, Joseph, like, literally straight looks at him once while he's in the diner. Holy fuck. Literally a single look from Straits and Joseph's just like, are those sharp teeth? Are you a vampire?
Yeah.
Like, immediately.
He really has dulled in his old age.
Mm-hmm. Why'd you get different rooms if you're, like, worried about a stand user being in this town?
Because they're dumb. Damn.
Horse. Varmints.
She just...
She's so tiny.
Uh-oh.
What's the music? Anytime anything moves, it's just like...
I can't tell if she's gonna, like, switch it around and be like, you didn't protect my son, so I'll murder you.
Ah!
Ah. I knew it. Ah.
And then it just sucks you dry.
Ugh. Wrong hand, buddy.
Okay. This haunted house
We're gonna
vibe.
slowly and loudly walk down the stairs.
Oh, you actually heard something for once? Wow. Two-parter. Mm-hmm. What'd you think of that episode?
They're so dumb. They're literally so... It's... Like, I don't know how to feel about it because it's so funny. Like,
Yeah.
it's really funny. But it also just
It's unbelievably
so,
stupid.
It's so bad that it's, like... It's so bad, but it's so funny, but it's so bad that it makes me not respect any of the characters literally at all because they have the intelligence of, like, a literal baby. Like...
It's just, yeah, it's dumb. It's like, I was trying to say it before, but like it's like they aren't capable of making any leaps at all. Like, it's like they need to be smacked in the face with the truth or have categorically there be zero possibility that there is not a stand there in order for them to believe that there is a stand. If there's even a 51% chance that's not enough, like, more likely than not that there is a stand, then they're like, oh, the stand, and like,
even
every little thing they see, it's like, okay, like that puts more in favor of there being a stand here, but I'm not willing to, question anything.
Even though we're getting attacked by stands almost on a daily basis, there's
Even
no
though we
way,
saw
guys.
a literal skull appear in the sky made of
and
the
this
fog.
creepy fog,
And we've
like,
seen, like,
dead
3
people,
dead
and
people.
like weird stuff going on in like the sketchy hotel. Oh, there's one normal person. There's a stand user around, and there's one person that seems to be not affected by this creepy town. We'll trust them.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's just kind of like...
It's so ridiculous.
It's literal horror movie levels of like...
Yeah, it's
don't go in that room. You know that, like the creep... Like, it's the creepiest shit
we're
you
just
can
gonna
be.
go out to the creepy cabin in the middle of the creepy woods.
Yeah.
With, like... Oh, there's this creepy book. It says don't do this.
We got a flat tire. What's this? A knife in our flat tire? When did this happen? Oh, I can see a truck stop. The lights are off. I'm just gonna go check it out, and the windows are boarded up. I'm gonna go inside and see what I can find.
Yeah, it's like it's that level of like absolutely like. But it's like to the point that it seems like it's just making fun of that. But at the same time, it's like so persistent
bad,
that I like.
What?
I guess the thing is, I'm not like I'm having a hard time getting anything out of the story because it's literally just like roasting it or like making fun of it. It's literally
all
just
a joke.
memes.
It's all a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be serious. And that's the other thing. It's like we shouldn't be expecting it to be serious.
Yeah.
So there's that too. But it's hard to like I guess tension's not the thing, but like I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is because it's like it's supposed to be like this. It feels like it takes 5 sentences too long to get to like what they're getting at.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, it's supposed to be a joke, and we're making a joke here about, like, how dumb this is. But it's like, we need to reason out every single, like, piece of evidence towards one thing or another and describe it in excruciating detail to the point where, like, by the time we get to the next joke, it's like we've explained to the bedrock what is happening.
Yeah.
And they still, even though they explain things down so far, they come to, like, a weird backwards conclusion that, like, somehow reasons out that everything's normal. Is just kind of like, yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit. It's funny. It's funny and it's entertaining, but yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you leave a like and subscribe. We're moving on to the next one. See what's happening in the second part of this two-parter. Mm-hmm. And check out Patreon. But I hope you enjoyed most of all. I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
Bye-bye. So we were just talking about why Lindsay isn't really feeling this part.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's just not. You're not getting the same thing out of part 3 as you did with part 2.
Yeah.
And your reasoning was...
My reasoning is basically with part 1, it was like very short. It was like all the story. The characters were there. It was a very like good versus evil, right versus wrong, get to the point, and some crazy stuff happens in between, and it's all fun. Part 2, which I really enjoyed, like, mostly because the characters had so much personality. Joseph, like, from the first moment that you see him, he's out of control, and, like, all this crazy shit is happening with him, like, completely ridiculous stuff happens, but, like, his personality and, like, the way he does things and the way he talks and the way he acts is... He's such a strong character. And if you like him and you like watching him do stuff, then that's entertainment enough. And then you have Caesar, who comes in and is also strong, and they're a good team. And Lisa as well, she gets presented, and she's immediately, like, you're so interested. Like, it seems like in part 2, every time a new character was introduced, I was genuinely interested in them. Like, you know, and we had the villains. And, like, AC/DC was, like, semi-decent, but, like, Wham! Awesome. Really, like, the whole, like, honor, mm-hmm. and, the villain had a very clear set of rules that the personal code that he was abiding to, and that was what made it interesting of, like, and then there's all this back and forth between him and Joseph during the chariot fight, and that was, like, awesome and really, like, demonstrated the differences and similarities there. And then we had Cars, who just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And in the end, but played to what he believed, which was, like, he doesn't need to abide by honor or anything. He's just gonna do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. And then become a crazy Birdman and get launched into space. Like, I guess there was still ridiculous stuff, and it was still funny and entertaining and a wild ride, mm-hmm. but I just felt like I had more to... There was more, like, substance of the story that was taking place, or the characters I really enjoyed. In this one, I feel like we have multiple, like, characters that have been introduced. Like, we have a larger cast, but I don't think it necessarily helps. Like, they all get introduced, they kill off one of them because they have too many, and then they're all just kind of hanging out and, like, fighting against these like, so cheesy one-off villains that are they're literally, every villain is just like, I'm the best, no one can defeat me, and then they get defeated. I don't know. I guess that's just how I feel about it. So for me, I'm kind of waiting, like, okay, can we, like, after this, can we get to, like, Dio, or, like, some sort of villain that is actually a character, not a villain that is just an excuse to, like, do literal random shit for an entire episode, and, like, disgusting, weird, like, throwing up and blood flying everywhere, and, like, ripping people apart, like, yeah. It's, I guess that's the other thing, is, like, I don't necessarily just, like, love watching fights, and, like, what's interesting about JoJo fights is they're completely ridiculous, and that's, like, the fun aspect. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if I feel like the fights have no stakes whatsoever, because I know it's a one-off fight, and, like, you know, I guess I'm just not as interested in watching characters that I'm not like super engaged by their personalities or their fighting styles. I'm not like excited to see, oh, what's Joseph gonna do next, and what cool new way is he gonna like manipulate the situation to like come up with a new idea.
Yeah.
And like mind fuck the other person into like doing what he wants.
Yeah, that was what I was upset with the previous Joseph episode, when his solution was like, oh, I'll just dip them in coal tar.
Yeah.
Rather than part 2, Joseph would have like used the ripple in like such an off the wall way that I would not even expect. I feel like
this one was like him doing that was okay. It was kind of like, oh, he thought he was just running around, but then he did that, and then it was a trick because it wasn't to drown him, it was to harden it up and then take it off. So I think that was okay, but there was a lot more of that, and it was clear that that was like the intrigue and that was the focus. That was the way to get out of situations, was to come up with a creative and like interesting solution. In this one, it's just like beat them up or like wait until they devolve into a literal like blob on the ground.
Yeah, all the times like all the times that they've tricked somebody in this one and like gotten the upper hand, it's always been like they just waited for them to reveal themselves. Yeah. Or like there was the one thing on the ship that was kind of funny with the fish guy, where he's like, oh, well, there's a vein in your nose if you inhale cigarette smoke and you're a stand user. But it turns out, but that was it. That was the only time, and it was such a small thing, and then that was it. Yeah. Like every other time, I think it's just been either they're hostile from the beginning, like with the car stand,
they're,
or
like, super obviously evil.
Yeah. Or they just eventually reveal themselves to be evil. There's never been, like, you know, Joseph forcing them out into the open, or, like, tricking them and turning them against themselves in some way, or, like, forcing them to, like, you know, getting the upper hand in a weird way.
Someone comes on the screen, they're clearly evil, the main characters somehow don't notice that they're evil, then they do something evil, and then they're like, oh, are they evil? I can't quite tell. Oh, they're like ripping people apart. Okay, I guess we should defeat them. And then they defeat them, and it's not like in some gruesome way that they're like half apart by the end of it. And I guess the thing is, for me, it's just like, it's getting a bit repetitive. I don't feel like I'm learning anything new about the characters enough to compensate for the amount of time that's spent on these like one-off villains that are like slurping around all over the place. I don't feel like I'm getting to know each character's like fighting style as much. Yeah. And more emphasis is placed each episode, more emphasis is on the random one-off character than on the main characters, and I think to me that's the problem.
Yeah.
In part 2, it was like Joseph is fighting this character, or like, you know, the main characters are doing this cool thing to fight against the bad guy's crazy thing that just happened. In this, it's like the main characters are just sort of fucking around, the bad guy comes in and destroys everything, and then in the end they like pull it off.
Yeah. And then the next episode has nothing to do with what just happened, basically.
I think that's my main problem.
Yeah.
And I don't want to drop Jojo, even like I'm definitely not enjoying this as much. Like, it's kind of good for a laugh, but it's like as every episode gets more and more
You're just
of
waiting
just the same thing.
yeah.
I'm like, can we just get to a villain that's not the exact same as every other of the villains? Even like the double right-handed man, even he, like, it was a 2-parter episode and it was somewhat more engaging and more interesting.
But he was just
the
random
same thing.
thug.
It was like he was the random dude. He wasn't. He didn't have any specific character traits that like make him an interesting villain. He didn't. You know, like previously, it was all about like, oh, this villain, they abide by this, and like their entire personality is built up around, and their entire fighting style and what they will do and what they won't do is built up around one thing, even if it's a silly thing. Like, first of all, Cars, he, like, wasn't gonna hurt a flower or whatever, and, like, he, like, does some crazy shit to avoid, like, you know.
Yeah.
Or
He, like, forces a car to crash so that it doesn't run over, like, a dog or a cat or something.
Just something weird, but something that you can clearly pick out and say, like, this is what they're all about.
Yeah.
These people don't have that. It's completely
Every villain
random.
so far, you're 100% right, now that I think about it, and I don't blame you at all. I didn't think of it like this, I guess. I just kind of... I guess when I was watching it the first time, I just binged the fuck through it, and I was really just enjoying how mindless it was, I guess. But, yeah, you're literally 100% right. Every villain so far has been a carbon copy of just guy who's, like, really gross and just is like, yeah, you fucking idiot, I'm gonna shit on your mouth and cut your dick off and shove it in your eye hole, piece of shit, fucking moron. Like, literally screaming shit like that. Yeah! Like, every single one.
Like, it's kind of gross, and I'm, like, still grossed out when they're doing stuff, but I'm not,
But, like, that's why AC/DC was the worst Pillar Man.
Yeah.
And why Wham was cool, why Cars was cool, why Dio was cool, and even why Straits was cool.
Yeah, even Straits, it was... They clearly had, like, thought put in it. Yeah, even
they all had personal
Straits
ambitions.
was a villain for, like, one episode.
Yeah.
But even still, you could, like, clearly...
There was some betrayal. He had personal investment.
And they don't have to be super personal. Like, with Cars, it wasn't really... Like, with the Pillarmen, it wasn't... It was personal, but not really for them. They just wanted to do what they were doing originally. But... Yeah. I feel like there was more to be had, like, especially when you set up a guy, the guy who killed my sister, and then they're the exact same of just a shithead laughing creepily and, like, spewing dirt everywhere. Yeah. It's like...
It becomes a bit much.
And then, like, even, like, Enya, you're like, oh, okay, she's gonna be not the exact same because she... has been, like, sort of, not necessarily, like, hyped up, but she's, like, Dio's right hand. She's, like, right with Dio. She's scooting around fucking, like, I don't know. I guess it's just, it's, like, kind of fun to watch, but it's getting to the point where it's, like,
how long are we going to do this?
Am I going to be entertained by this show that is just kind of fun to watch and kind of gross?
Yeah.
And, like, but, like...
There's nothing to root for.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's partly a problem with Jotaro, that Jotaro didn't have his sister Rei. Like, that's why people say Polnareff is, like, the main character. Because Polnareff, like, goes through a personal journey. And Jotaro, he's fighting to save his mom, but he's just the stoic badass the whole time.
Yeah.
And is just cool, and that's it. Whereas Joseph, like... kind of learned, like, he was basically himself throughout the whole thing, but he kind of learned and grew and thought about things. Thought
he,
about,
as a person, was more entertaining than just Jotaro, just being
Joseph
Jotaro.
talked a lot, and Jotaro hardly ever talks.
Yeah, Jotaro's just like, huh.
Yeah.
Kills them.
Yeah. And I won't lie to you, a lot of since stands are introduced, the majority of the series, parts 3, 4, and 5, 4 and 5 have a big villain. So, and similar to, I guess, part 3, but part 3 is so large that, like, there's a lot of time between where you get to actually Dio. But in part 4, I don't remember it being, like, I don't remember it being this bad with, like, how dumb the villains are. There is, like, a villain of the week thing in part 4 and in part 5. It follows a similar formula because okay, so two things. It follows this formula kind of for the rest of the show as far as I've seen. I don't know about part 6 and onwards. But because when stands are introduced, it's no longer one set power system that, like, all the good guys have, and then vampires have their own things that are kind of weird that are to each character. With stands, it's part of the fun is, what is the stand going to be? What is this? What is how is this power going to work? What kind of wacky shit is going to happen with this stand that we're seeing this week? And that continues for the rest of what I know JoJo to be. But because because Araki is just creating stands, the ideas and how they work is so basic. Like, Jotaro's stand is literally punch guy. He's punching guy, super fast, super strong, and it's super basic. In parts 4 and onward, the stands get way more like interesting. So then you seeing a new stand and like, how is this going to work? Is this
at this point, the way each stand works is almost completely irrelevant to the plot because they can just defeat them.
Yeah.
Like with like there's never like, oh, I need to like be careful of that. Like there kind of is, but it's so low stakes and like, oh no, underwater guy has like made a whirlpool with some scales in it. How will we ever defeat this? It's like you're just gonna fucking like punch him or some shit.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's like very little strategy involved. There doesn't need to be a ton of strategy, but I feel like
something needs to like
there needs to be something if they're gonna do a monster of the week type thing. It can't be the same monster every week.
Yeah, and that's something that Araki, I think, learns going on, that, like, the gross, wacky factor is just the Jojo's personality. That's been there since, like, part 1. But as it goes on, he gets better at writing slightly more different characters, like, depending on each thing. There's a lot of repeats. This same guy that we're seeing each episode does appear in different variations throughout the rest of the show. I won't lie to you. And the Monster of the Week thing does continue, but it gets better, and he gets better at doing it. And there are still some episodes, especially in part 5. I didn't super enjoy part 5 for similar reasons that you're not enjoying this. But it's definitely like I'm comparing it, and it's not like this is a lot worse than I thought. This is a lot more tedious to get through than I thought it was going to be. Part 4 is a lot better. Towards the end of part 3, it gets a lot better. But and I think once we switch over to the second half, you hopefully by then different things will start to happen. I think the change that happens at the end of halfway through this will hook you. It's going to be a bit of a slog until then.
I genuinely believe it because of how much I liked part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I have faith that it will get better. It's just
such a slog right now.
It's just kind of disappointing. To me, I guess. And it's like partially like you're just one enemy per week kind of thing. But the same thing is many shows, like a lot of like live action shows that I have watched in my own time have been like fucking Criminal Minds, Supernatural, NCIS. I'm watching Grey's Anatomy right now. Like that's the same. It's the same idea of like it's a different version of the same thing every week, and then the occasional 2-parter that's like gets really into the story.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a problem with the format. I think it's them making them too similar and relying solely on a gross factor for each villain. That I'm just not interested in their powers because first of all, I know they're gonna die by the end. Second of all their powers are just being disgusting.
Yeah.
And at first, it's like kind of gross, and it's still gross. But I'm like, you're just not writing a good villain.
Yeah.
And instead, just making it as disgusting as possible, so that I squirm around and like feel grossed out. But I never feel like threatened. I never feel like they're actually like a threat in any way. Like, even though one of the main characters has literally been killed at this point. Like, Abdul got killed. But he was like, he was cool, and I wish we got to see more of him, but he was like still barely a character at that point. Even though we were like quite far into it. So I feel like, I don't know. And he just got taken out by a random thing.
See, that's interesting too, because like I think back to part 2, and when Caesar got killed, it was a similar thing, like about the same amount of time, right? Roughly around that, maybe give or take a few episodes. But like the difference was they were fighting the Pillar Men, who were like introduced immediately to be super powerful, and characters like a beloved, like, you know, Caesar. We didn't really care when Caesar died. I didn't, and you didn't really care that much when Caesar died. I didn't get
too emotional, but it felt
like a death. It felt like something was lost in the
it definitely did, and especially like looking back, like I guess like different people get emotional over different things or whatever. But like it definitely was a loss, and it definitely impacted the characters and changed. Like Joseph like carried that with him and like accepted that into himself.
Yeah. It had consequences throughout the rest of the story,
Yeah.
and like both a visual way with like the headband and shit, and also just obviously in a character way. Like it was felt in this. Abdul's death doesn't feel very felt.
Yeah,
like they have a couple
they're like,
moments where like
we're gonna go back and give him a proper grave, and I'm like, and I'm kind of
like cutting to each of their faces. Yeah, it's like okay, sure, do what you want, I guess, but like, it's the difference is there wasn't even though Caesar's death was like it didn't feel as impactful to us. It was definitely more impactful than Abdul's death, and I think the difference is the struggle that they went through between meeting Caesar and Caesar's death. Between meeting Abdul and his death, Abdul was just like, "Oh, explain something about where we are."
Fighting as a team, like they aren't building the team dynamic as much as well, which is a problem because with Caesar and Joseph, and then Lisa as well, it was like they're a team. They're fighting against this force of evil together. They're fighting individually, but at multiple points they have like put their lives on the line to help the other person.
Yeah.
So the bond, even though they aren't together for that long, is very real and very believable that they do have this bond. In this one, most of the times they're getting attacked, they're by themselves, or they're being stupid and like not helping out each other when they could.
Yeah.
And then the one time that they did, one of them got killed, so it was just...
And then because it's like a different person every time,
yeah,
it's like you know that if they're by themselves, they're not in danger because the show's gonna go on. And then one of them actually does die, and you don't actually care. So then you're like, oh, well, you saw... Like, I guess that's a meta thing, too. That's kind of interesting. So you're, one, not afraid for them to die. Oh shit, one of them did die, and now it's supposed to be like...
But you're still not afraid for them to...
You're supposed to, like, oh, so one of them died. They can die. The characters can die in this. Mm-hmm. But that's not felt. Instead, it's like... I didn't feel anything when that character died. So... Do I guess care?
It doesn't matter whether any more die or not.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess I don't care even more.
Whether the bad guy wins or the good guy wins,
Yeah.
And I guess... It's just kind of disappointing and it's not something that I want in a show. This is not like a review that I want to be giving of a show, I guess. But that's just how I'm feeling at this part.
Well, it's better for you to share it and be honest rather than, and if we're going to keep watching it to be honest, because if we were just going to drop it, then there'd be no point in making this.
Yeah.
Talking about it like this, we could just stop watching it and be okay, but you want it to get better.
I want
it to
get better. I want to they say especially because the show has different parts and stuff, and obviously you said the second half of this is different, and I believe that. I
think the second half is better for a number of reasons that I won't spoil, and part 4 is much better than this.
Yeah, the thing, and that's the thing. It's everyone has their own favorite part of this in general anyway, so and I feel like it wouldn't be fair to I would be doing myself a disservice to drop it. But I will say this is a reaction and a review, and I'm
not feeling very strong.
If I'm not especially as it keeps wearing on, I feel like every watch session I come in and I'm like, okay, maybe this time we're gonna go into it with a good attitude and just see what happens. But they just keeps giving me the same thing each time. So, but I'm still looking forward to a point where this is not the case, basically.
Well, we're going to stop watching right now, but we hope that you guys enjoyed this discussion, this reaction review to this episode. Check out Patreon to see more, and subscribe and stay tuned to see if Lindsay's opinion changes, or if it gets even worse and we end up dropping Jojo. Probably won't, but if it gets to a certain point where it's just you're literally not enjoying it at all. If it was horrible,
then maybe we would take a break.
Yeah. But I honestly just want you to see part 4 because I think you're going to like it a lot more. And the end of part 3, I think you will like. But anyway, we'll see. Hope you guys liked it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.